Having understood the three pillars of sustainability and their interconnectedness, let us try to understand the need for sustainability. As you can see, the cost of global warming. 50 numbers of global million-dollar climate disasters happened in 2020. US dollars 63 billion cost of damage from severe storms and hails in 2020. US dollars 268 billion global economic losses from climate related disasters in 2020. US dollars 35 billion cost of most expensive single disaster, the summer flooding in China. US dollars 12 billion cost of damage from wildfires in 2020. 29 average annual number of global billion-dollar climate disasters since 1990. The cost of climate change on GDP, as you can see on the slide, by 2020, by 2050, if temperature rise stays below 2 degrees, the GDP of India will dip by 3.8, and by 2050, going by the current national goals, the GDP will dip by 9.08. Going by the globally agreed goals, by 2050, the GDP will dip by 9.87. Climate change is considered the most urgent and impactful contemporary environmental crisis. Global temperatures have risen significantly with the five warmest years on record occurring in the last decade. Scientists predict temperatures could rise by as much as 10 degrees Fahrenheit by the end of this century if greenhouse gas emissions continue unabated. Extreme weather events are becoming more and more frequent and severe. For example, more than 33% of Pakistan went underwater in 2022 due to severe floods caused by climate change, while more than 66% of Europe received severe drought warnings in the same year. Let us come to understand the resource depletion. Let us look at the food facts. 50% of the Earth's habitable land is already used for agriculture. And agriculture is the primary driver of deforestation, habitat loss, and biodiversity loss. 80% humanity could require more food by 2100. The number of people suffering from hunger and malnutrition has been increasing in step with the global population since 2014. One third, the global food system is the biggest single contributor to climate change, responsible for around a third of all greenhouse gas emissions. If you look at the overconsumption, it is out of control. In just 6 years, that is between 2016 and 2021, we have globally consumed over 75% of what we consumed for an entire century, the 20th century. We are consuming resources 1.8 times faster than Earth can regenerate them. Fossil fuels, which provide 80% of global energy supply, are finite and rapidly deleting. Natural resources, including water, minerals, and fertile soils, are under increasing pressure. The need for sustainability is because of the environmental degradation that is happening. You can see on the slides the wildfires and climate change. Climate change is fueling wildfires. Temperatures are rising. Average annual temperature in the western US has increased 1.9 degree Fahrenheit since 1970. Snow is melting sooner. Winter snowpacks melts up to 4 weeks earlier than the previous decade, and that's why the ocean levels are rising. Fires are getting worse. Wildfires are larger and costlier than before, and their emissions are worsening the global warming. And forests are drier longer. Ecosystems are primed for wildfires to ignite and spread. If you look at the environmental impact of textiles, in 2020, textile consumption per person in the European Union required on an average 400 meters of land, 9 meter cubed of water, and 391 kgs of raw materials annually, and caused a carbon footprint of about 270 kgs. Coming to the ocean plastic statistics, 80% of all marine debris found in the ocean is made up of plastic. In the coral reefs, it is estimated that 11.1 billion plastic items are entangled on coral reefs across the Asia Pacific, and estimate this number to increase by 40% by 2050. If you look at the plastic types, 51 trillion are microplastic and 25 trillion are macroplastic. 100% of baby sea turtles have plastics in their stomachs. Air and water pollution affect millions of people globally. The World Health Organization states that particles and air pollutants in urban areas are responsible for millions of premature deaths and staggering economic costs. Environmental degradation also includes deforestation, habitat destruction, soil degradation, and plastic pollution. So, let us try to understand what are the economic opportunities that is possible. And that's why we have a need for sustainability, because there is economic opportunity there. And what kind of opportunities the sustainability will provide us? Opportunities of digital economy for sustainability. There is renewable energy and sustainable technology solutions are possible. Big data and analytics for sustainability, consumer empowerment and value co-creation, smart cities and sustainable urbanization, circular economy and sustainable consumption, socially responsible business models, policy interventions for sustainable digital economy. All these things are possible. Circular resource and energy supplies. Supply of renewable energy and recyclable biodegradable resources. We can recycle unwanted waste to extract resources and maintain a closed loop, which is called resource recovery from waste. Industrial symbiosis will be possible. The interdependency of industries for raw materials and a common platform for maximum utilization of resources. We can look at product as a service. So they can be reducing resources consumption by providing a desired service instead of a product that can do it. For example, today, refrigerator for a student, if he requires for a particular period of time, he doesn't have to purchase it, he can rent it out. And that's where a product can become a service and returnable, is reusable. They can be product life extension, maintenance, repair, and reuse of products for maximization of utilization. We can redesign products. So, innovation today, rethinking and redesigning products to reduce their ecological footprints is possible. So, there is a lot of economic opportunity, and that's why there is a need for sustainability. There is also disproportionate impacts. That's why there is a need for sustainability, because right now without sustainability there is a disproportionate impacts on the global level. We can see the share of global CO2 emissions and population. This is the data of 2023. Carbon dioxide emissions from fossil fuels and industry. Land use change is not included here. And you can see the share of emissions with the population of the high income countries. The population is 17.5, but you look at their share of emissions, it is 37.18. When you come to the middle upper income countries, their population is 35.3 and their share of emissions is 46.5. So it's nearly half the emissions that is happening globally. When you come to the lower middle income countries, the share of population is 38.1% and their share of emissions is 12.9. Now, the last one is the low income countries, and their share of population is 9.1%. And you look at their share of emission, it is so insignificant, it is 0.5%. So that's why there is a need for sustainability, because presently there is disproportionate impacts. What will be the cause of inaction? When there is a disproportionate impacts, the low income communities are typically the ones that are most affected by environmental hazards. Water and air pollution disproportionately affect the marginalized communities. Climate change impacts vulnerable population more severely, creating additional social inequalities. So that's why we need sustainability. And what will be the cost of inaction? The environmental degradation could reduce the global GDP by $2.7 trillion annually by 2030. This loss impacts around half of global GDP, estimated at $44 trillion. Healthcare costs associated with pollution and environmental degradation will continue to rise, affecting both the developed and developing nations. So, what is the cause of inaction? You can see the map of India there. In the first map, the population and weighted PM 2.5 exposure. That's what you can see in the first map. And here you can see the states of Delhi, Uttar Pradesh, and Bihar. They have equal to or more than 100. And if you come to the state like Kerala, it is less than 20. Karnataka stands somewhere around 20 to 39.9. If you look at the second map, here the population proportion of population using solid fuels, and that's the percentage there. Again, the states of Bihar, Jharkhand, Odisha, and Assam, it is more than 70%. Karnataka stands somewhere between 40 and 49.9%. And Tamil Nadu and Telangana, you can see it is less than 30%. That's the proportion of population using solid fuels. Coming to the population weighted ozone concentration, parts per million. Here, again, the states of Bihar, Jharkhand, and Odisha, Ladakh, it is more than 70 parts per million. And Karnataka stands at 60 to 69.9, and there is no state which is less than 30. Arunachal Pradesh is around 40 to 49.9 parts per million billion. So the economic loss as a percentage of the state GDP. What will happen if we don't get sustainable? There is also economic loss. That's what this map is saying. So the loss is greater than 1.5 in many of the North Indian states, as you can see, that is colored red. If you look at Karnataka, the loss is between 1 and 1.25%. And the economic loss as a percentage of the state GDP is the least in Mizoram, Arunachal Pradesh, and Sikkim. So that's the kind of statistics that we have. So, what is the environmental impact on health? You can see the second picture there. The fact is that 24% of all global deaths are linked to the environment. This is the data of 2016. That's roughly 13.7 million deaths a year. And where is it happening? You can see the statistics there. Which are the countries that are facing the problem in the most severe manner is Southeast Asia region, that is having 4.1 million deaths. In the Western Pacific region, it is 3.6 million. In Africa region, it is 2.5 million. In the European region, it is 1.4 million. In the region of the Americas, it is 1.1. And in Eastern Mediterranean region, it is 9,84,000 deaths. So that is the cost of inaction that the world will have to face if we do not go for sustainability. If we don't get sustainable, what is the need for sustainability? It is required because of intergenerational equality. So we have a moral responsibility to ensure the future generations inherit a healthy planet. Intergenerational equality conveys that humans are part of the global community that includes all generations, and everyone has the right to inherit the same benefits and natural resources for equal access and use. So it is not just our generation to have a good earth, we have to inherit the same good earth to the coming generation, and it is our moral responsibility to do so. So, trying to summarize the need for sustainability, we saw the following factors, that is, climate change, resource depletion, environmental degradation, what will be the cost of inaction if we, and what are the economic opportunities possible, what are the disproportionate impacts that are happening, and the need for intergenerational equality or equity. Let us now look at what are the impacts of sustainability. That means if we do not go for sustainability, what are the impacts that the globe will have to face, which we are already facing. The first is the climate change mitigation. So this will be the most important impact of sustainability. Renewable energy resources emit little or no greenhouse gases during their operation. So, transitioning to clean energy can significantly reduce the carbon emissions. For example, renewable energy can support climate adaptation by powering essential services during extreme weather conditions. The second point is the resource conservation that will happen. That will be the impact of sustainability. Efficient resources use reduces the waste and minimizes extraction pressure. For example, the circular economy principles promoting recycling and reuse. As an example, we can see the Sweden's circular economy concept that has successfully reduced the landfill and increased recycling rates. Water conservation and sustainable agriculture will preserve the vital resources for future generations. Another impact of sustainability will be the biodiversity protection. The conservation efforts will protect the natural habitats and preserve species diversity. Sustainable practices maintain ecosystem balance and stability. Reforestation initiatives will help to restore the damaged ecosystem and offset the deforestation impacts. Another good thing will happen because of sustainability is the job creation. So, the renewable energy sector will create numerous employment opportunities. For example, investments in sustainable tourism, there is green infrastructure today, and renewable energy generates new job and drive the economic growth. Green building construction is another area. Waste management is the another sector, and conservation science create additional opportunities for employment. So we can call them as green job or green job generation or green business, green economic opportunities is will be possible, and that will be an impact of sustainability. There will be a lot of investment opportunities. So this is a positive thing that will happen out of sustainability. Sustainable practices will attract the investors focused on long-term value, like green technologies, can create new market opportunities and competitive advantage. Sustainable real estate often has higher property values, attracting further investment. There will be a lot of cost savings. Energy efficiency means reduce the operational costs significantly. For example, there are tax credits for homeowners and business owners who invest in renewable energies like solar panel. Companies like UPS have saved 10 million gallons of fuel per year through AI optimized routing systems. There will be improved health and well being. The cleaner air and water will reduce the health risks significantly. Sustainable practices create healthier living environments and reduce healthcare costs. There will be improved water and air quality that are crucial for human health and well being. Another important factor is that there will be social equity. Everybody will be looked upon as equals, whether it is countries or whether it is individuals, business enterprises. all of them will have an equal opportunity and will be looked upon as equals. So, this sustainable development will promote the fair access to resources, education, and healthcare. It will help address the social inequalities by ensuring everyone gets what they need to succeed. The green jobs will provide opportunities in unreserved communities, contributing to poverty alleviation as well. There will be community empowerment. Local renewable energy projects create community ownership opportunities. The sustainable practices strengthen community resilience against economic and environmental disruptions. The education and awareness programs will build the community stewardship and community engagements. So, all people, irrespective of their caste, creeds, or educational qualifications, will be empowered and there will be community engagement. So, these are the impacts that will happen due to sustainability. Let us now dwell into the history or have a glimpse of the Millennium Developmental Goals, the MDGs, and the Sustainable Development Goals, that is the SDGs. So, what are these Millennium Developmental Goals, MDGs, from 2000 to 2015? The MDGs were the eight international development goals that were set up by the United Nations Millennium Summit in September 2000, aiming to improve the lives of the people worldwide, especially in the developing nations. Please observe here that this was done mainly for the developing nations. And what were the key points that were adopted? 189 countries agreed on these points to be achieved by 2015. Each goal had measurable targets and indicators. So, this is for the development of the entire globe, but it was concentrated mostly on the developing nations. So, let us look at the list of the MDGs. As you know, there were eight of them, and this was a period for the period of 2000 to 2015. The first MDG, the Millennium Development Goal, was to eradicate extreme poverty and hunger. Two is to achieve universal primary education. Three was to promote gender equality and empower women. Four was to reduce child mortality. Five, to improve maternal health. Six is to combat HIV, AIDS, malaria, and other diseases. And seven was to ensure environmental sustainability. And eight, global partnership for development. Now, let us look at the Sustainable Development Goals, which was designed for the period of 2015 to 2030. The SDGs are 17 global goals developed in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil in 2012, adopted by the UN in 2015, set to be accomplished by 2030. These goals build on and go beyond the MDGs. The scope is more here because they include economic, social, and environmental priorities and for all nations, not just the developing ones. So that's where the difference is. The MDGs were limited to developing nations, and the goal was also limited, but here it is widened out to include the economic, social, and environmental priorities. It also includes all the nations. So, what were the key points? The universal goals apply to all countries, rich and poor. That's the first point. More inclusive, okay, and very ambitious, and it is comprehensive because it includes climate action, peace, innovation, and more. The third key point is that leave no one behind. Ensure that everyone benefits from sustainable development. So these were the key points, and let us now look at the Sustainable Development Goals. They are 17 in number, and what are they? Goal number one is no poverty. Two is zero hunger. So it begins with the basic needs of human beings. There should not be anybody who is poor. There should not be anybody who is hungry. So nobody should be left behind. The third is good health and well being. Fourth is quality education. Five is gender equality. Six is clean water and sanitation. Seven is affordable and clean energy. Eight, decent work and economic growth. Nine is industry, innovation, and infrastructure. 10 is reduced inequalities. 11 is sustainable cities and communities. 12 responsible consumption and production. 13 is climate change. 14 life below water. 15 is life on land. And 16 is peace, justice, and strong institutions. Finally, the 17th one is the partnership for the goals. So it is not just goals at the global level, it could also happen at local level. So all kinds of partnerships are included here. Let us try to compare. Let us try to compare the Sustainable Development Goals to the Millennium Developmental Goals. As you can see in the table there, the features are the number of goals in the MDGs were 8, in the SDGs it is 17. The time frame is 2000 to 2015, and SDGs will encompass the next 15 years, that is 2015 to 2030. The focus was mainly to reduce poverty, health, education, and also have gender equality, that is the MDGs, whereas the SDGs uh, focused on sustainable development, economic, social, and environmental. We saw the three pillars in the earlier lecture. The scope for the MDGs was mainly the developing countries, whereas the scope for the SDGs is all countries. The ambition of the MDGs was to address the basic needs, and in the SDGs it says leave no one behind. It has more ambitious targets, so it also targets the developing as well as the developed world. Coming to the implementation, the MDGs was mainly government action. So here it is not so. In the SDGs, it says leave no one behind. So everybody is involved, whether it is the public sector, the private sector, the governments, NGOs, all of them. So it is the government, businesses, civil involvement is also there. Society involvement is there. Coming to the environmental focus, the MDGs are limited, whereas here in the SDGs, there is a strong emphasis on climate change and sustainable resources. The MDGs were successful, no doubt, but in many areas there were gaps, especially in the long term sustainability and inclusiveness. There were long term gaps, and the SDGs therefore tried to fill in those gaps and have a broader transformation goal, seeking active participation from all the stakeholders to create a more sustainable and a just world. Just here means about justice, These goals will be just to all the nations. Let us look at the principles of sustainable development goals. What are the foundational themes? The SDGs are built upon five pillars here. You can see all the five P's here: the people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. They aim for a just, equitable, and inclusive model of sustainable development for everyone, with special focus on children, youth, and the marginalized groups. The SDGs reconfirm commitment to freedom, security, peace, respect, and international law and human rights. So, these are the foundational themes of SDGs. If you come to the core principles, the first is the universality. These are the core principles. Because the SDGs apply to all the countries, regardless of income levels or geography or the size of the country. Every nation shares the responsibility and everyone must contribute. That's the core principle. There is inclusiveness here. That's the second core principle. Leave no one behind. That's the central promise, with a focus on reaching those furthest behind, including the marginalized and vulnerable populations. There is integration is the third core principle, the economic growth. social progress, and environmental protection. There is an integration of all these areas considered interconnected and must behave together. So, the economic growth, the social progress, and the environmental protection, the three pillars are considered to be interconnected and they must be advanced together. Another core principle is the equity factor, where the SDGs prioritize reducing inequalities within and among countries and promote equal opportunities for all. The participation and transparency is another core principle where it says that implementation requires cooperation between governments, civil society, businesses, communities, and individuals with open and transparent processes. Sustainability is another core principle which says that the present needs must be met without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. And accountability is the final core principle, which says that we have to have clear targets, regular progress monitoring, and data collection, which are essential for tracking and ensuring effectiveness. The third core principle is the ethical and governance principle. So, here we say that there has to be respect for international law, human rights, and the principles set out in the UN Charter. Special attention to the least developed countries and those affected by conflicts and disaster. So there is certain ethical and moral principles that every country will have to practice as per the SDGs. Every country is responsible for strengthening the peace, justice, and effective institutions at all levels. So these are the ethical and governance principles, which is the principle of SDG. The fourth principle is the practical implementation aspect, because theoretical core principles will be there, the ethical principles will be there. We also have to look at the implementation factors. So it says that sustainable management and protection of natural resources and biodiversity. There will be elimination of poverty and hunger as top priorities, guaranteeing access to quality education, healthcare, clean water, and sanitation. When the implementation happens, all these factors will have to be taken into consideration. There will be advancement of full gender equality and empowerment of women and girls. Urgent action on climate change and environmental challenges will have to be there in the implementation factors. One will have to promote the peaceful and inclusive societies, justice, and strong institutions, mobilization of global resources, expertise, and innovation through partnership. All these will have to be considered in the practical implementation aspects, which is a principle of the SDG. The fifth principle is the data and monitoring for progress, because the core principles, when implemented, will have to be monitored and feedbacks will have to be taken, and they would have the processes will have to be made better. That's why the work will have to be based on data. Effective implementation requires thorough data collection based on gender, age, income, ethnicity, migratory status, disability, and location. And it will also require the accessibility and use of data, which are critical for evaluating and improving the progress towards SDGs. And that's when the loop will be completed. So, yeah, with having understood the principles of the Sustainable Development Goals, um, we will look at newer topics in the next lecture.